You're live, going live, live. Okay. I had done similar topic videos last year already. The first three or four, in fact, I think were kind of on this topic. And then I sort of revisited this idea a little bit with capsule wardrobe videos and office casual videos, maybe. I think I did two of those. And then more recently did stuff about the cost per wear topic. So I'm not going to go into all of those aspects. A lot of this is things I feel like I've said already, but then I was watching videos, women's fashion videos more to see how they kind of, address the topic. And of course, as I've said in previous videos, men's clothing and women's clothing aren't exactly the same thing. It's not a one-to-one thing. So a lot of their advice doesn't really necessarily work for men anyway, but I'm going to plow ahead because I've distilled several pages of what I think are the key points to restate under this heading. And I think a lot of these things they are getting from a couple of basic sources, the Spark Joy lady and a couple others. So some of the minimalist, sorry, my face itches as soon as I turn on the camera. I was having the longest time trying to get the thumbnail to fit, and I ended up having to do a totally new one. So anyway, so some of the minimalism stuff starts to sound kind of cultish to me. And I would say I am not a minimalist. I think anybody who's watched my videos and sees me pulls out 15 shirts of a particular style will say that's not minimalism. And the one gal addressed that. She basically says, yeah, if you have minimalist style clothing, but you have 50 of that item, you're not really a minimalist. That's true. I have many khaki shirts and many chambray shirts. And yet I don't only wear khaki shirts and chambray shirts. Okay. And I would say, and another thing, there was one gal who kind of addressed a lot of these main points. And then there was another gal who addressed most of the same points, but then went a little bit further with it. So it's kind of my jumping off point is to start here and then address here and then kind of go a little further with it myself. My hands are moving backwards when I'm trying to gesture and figure out how the camera reads it. so I'm pointing in the wrong direction half the time. Okay. But so anyway, so yeah, so and then the first gal would say, if you're developing your own style, make yours a version of somebody else's, not just copying them. And the other gal would say basically the same thing. Yeah, and so I've done a couple Indiana Jones theme videos also where clearly, if you want to have kind of an Indiana Jones style, again, khaki shirts, sure. But if you have to have the exact Indiana Jones jacket, the exact Indiana Jones hat, then it's not really your style anymore. You're more cosplaying. Does that make sense? Okay. But of course, if I actually wanted to cosplay Indiana Jones and go stand around and take pictures at the Chinese theater, I could. And if I substituted a different leather jacket that wasn't the exact model that he had, probably nobody would notice or care, right? And so if I'm buying a leather jacket, would I rather just buy a leather jacket that I can just wear rather than worrying about whether or not it looks exactly like the Indiana Jones jacket? Same with fedora hat, right? Okay. Although his version of a fedora hat is, another long discussion because you can't even find the proper one, or you couldn't for decades or whatever until they reissued it, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so the one gal, set your parameters. What kind of wardrobe do you need for a day or whatever? And then choose and lay out these things in advance. I'm not so big on, these girls all like to play dress up and figure out their outfits and through and through. Whereas again, with men's clothing, it's a little more like, pants and shirt, you don't really need to, overthink it as much. Does this sweater go with this pants? Probably, if they're both, in the same color family or whatever. How do you want to feel in your clothes? Okay, so that was kind of, again, unless you have kind of a scratchy linen shirt, most of our shirts feel kind of the same. Like, it's winter, I'm wearing flannel. It's summer, I'm wearing not flannel. It's wool. Obviously, wool will be more itchy. Most of these gals don't wear wool button-down plaid shirts, like we do. Okay. Then she said, makeup adjectives. They both said, kind of makeup adjectives to describe the style that you want to achieve or whatever. You can or can't do this depending. I mean, if you're already stylish, then you've probably already done this unconsciously anyway. And if you're not stylish at all, then I don't know why you clicked on this video. Maybe you want to try and achieve this, in which case, so yeah, like adjectives they would pick maybe, things like sporty or casual. Well, casual is not really a great one, because casual is more of a level of formality than that. But things of that type. That, like I said, in my videos, I've done nautical, Western. So for me, it's more of subgenres than colorful adjectives like French peasant or whatever. slightly different, not exactly entirely different. But then she said, choose a star. That's going to be your centerpiece around which you build the rest of your wardrobe. Again, a plaid shirt is not necessarily a star. It's maybe a little more elevated than a strictly utility garment. But I mean, I'm just wearing this because I am. Like, I'm not dressing up to make this video. If I was dressing up to make this video, would the star be the suit or would the star be the tie? It's like I said, it's a little incongruous maybe from women's clothes to men's clothes, because for women's clothes, like the star, they were, could be just a blouse, but it also could be the whole dress. So I don't know. But I would assume star would not be typically an accessory. That's something you add onto it. Although in Indiana Jones' case, it's more the hat than the jacket, because he takes off the jacket a lot of the time, right? And then the khaki shirt is just khaki shirt. And then you're supposed to go back and fill in the blanks, whatever's missing. I don't know. Again, if you're taking that to mean specific outfits, then it would be accessories. If you're taking that to mean your wardrobe as a whole, then we're talking colors, we're talking patterns, we're talking items. So that's a much longer conversation. Okay, then she went into this whole long thing. Okay, so this video is not going to be short. Okay. Warning you, we're already at 8 minutes and I haven't even gotten to page 2 of the notes, right? But basically, this was, I've talked about this kind of strategy a bit before, like I said, but not in this much detail. And I don't necessarily think you're going to go into this much detail. Again, if you're already stylish or whatever, you've already thought about this to a degree, probably anyway. But for those of you who want to know, okay, I'm gonna go into this anyway. So she wanted to say, how many times per month do you find yourself in recurring situations, and then match your wardrobe to this particular lifestyles, as opposed to, they all kind of say this, your fantasy you, or your what you think you're doing versus what you're really doing, right? And she said to do this for 30 days, which personally I don't think is, making the list is fine, but when you're actually doing the clothes, you're going to need more than 30 days. You're going to need more like 2 or 3 months to get any real wear and tear in the clothes and get how they feel. And I've talked about this again before too, because I've done those head-to-head videos, which I've started these head-to-head projects and I still haven't finished them because it just doesn't work that way always, that I'm only going to wear the same 2 pants all month. Okay. But so in the recurring situations list, we took our daily routine, and certain things we would have like 20 or maybe more times that we would do certain things, like our morning routine, where we may be still wearing what we slept in from the night before. So you can almost say that gets worn 30 times, although most of us have more than one pair of sleep clothes or pajamas. So maybe they're rotating 2 or 3 pairs. I don't know. But you're going to be wearing sleep clothes. So you're going to need enough clothes to sleep in for 30 days. Okay, fine. Then the next thing would be like evenings and at home. Maybe before you've changed into those sleep clothes, you're wearing something that's not, what you wore to work or whatever. And then if you work from home, you might be wearing something slightly different than what you would be wearing if you went to an office, or definitely, again, in menswear, if you're doing construction or in a warehouse or something, you're not wearing the same stuff. Again, if you're a student or if you have, a posh kind of office job. But then running errands, she had a separate outfit for that. I would lump that in more with the work from home kind of clothes, unless now the other gal was saying she likes to get dressed up to go shopping and stuff, and some of us do. I get dressed up more if I'm intentionally going to like a shopping situation or a lunch or something than I do if I'm like wearing whatever and all of a sudden it's an emergency and we need milk or something, that kind of thing. Like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to run to the store in my sweatpants because I plan to come right back. That happens to me, less than me thinking, well, I'm going to be out in the public, dealing with people or going to a movie or whatever. Even though maybe not a lot of people are going to see me, I still don't want to look like a total bum. Okay. Then exercise, or if you go dancing or workout clothes versus social events. Social events, she had broken them into casual social and fancy social, which again, like I said, casual social for me would be basically the same as office casual or work from home, maybe depending. And then fancy social, again, that's even more dressed up than, like I said, if I'm going to a movie or, something like that, where I'm probably wearing something like this. This is not a fancy shirt, right? But it is an okay, acceptable casual shirt without, a tie and without needing anything to go with it to dress it up, per se. And then we got into levels of formality. Hers, again, being slightly different than mine. So the first one was sleep and lounge wear. The second was active wear, which again would be more exercise. Her categories got a little mushy. I'm going to skip some of my notes here. Then she had one called unpolished casual. So that's different than your gym shorts, but that's basically jeans, certain khaki pants. Polished casual. Now, see, a lot of men would put expensive jeans here. Maybe I would too, just because, yeah, they're you're not wearing those to do construction in again. But I personally don't own any of those because I think expensive jeans are stupid and they are casual. They're not dressy, and I would rather be dressy if I'm going to polish my casual. Like, it doesn't take that, like I said, it doesn't take that much more to wear a nicer shirt than this with a tie. It's still basically a shirt, and I can wear the same pleated khakis or chinos with this shirt or that shirt if I want to dress up or down the chinos without going full suit, right? So then she did some magical fashion math, multiplied the per month of each thing, and made an actionable list. And you're supposed to visualize your outfits for each category and figure out what to dump or what to get that's missing, yada yada. Again, a little bit more overthinking that I think necessary. But so then, like I said, from there we went to the next gal a little bit more. Expanding on that, we had lifestyle, balance, color, and defining your personal style. So again, if you already have kind of a personal style, maybe you're just trying to tweak it. Maybe you're trying to get ideas here to tweak that. If you feel like you have no personal style whatsoever, then you might want to go back to that previous list and do some of that math and figure out where you are. Because again, if it's separating your work clothes from your personal life or private life clothes so that you don't have to wear your work clothes to these nicer events like weddings and things, but without overbuying stuff for weddings and things that you know you're not going to wear very often, but having them be very impactful when you do wear them, or being able to wear that stuff on the weekend and not just wear it once to a wedding and letting it rot in your closet. So again, the fantasy self versus the reality. That she says you need a wish list. Maybe you do. I don't, as I already have 8 billion shirts. But avoid silly purchases like 4 billion of my shirts. Again, and as I talked about way back in like video 1 or 2 or 3, whatever it was, we have, as men, you kind of have the soldier and the sailor, you've got khaki, you've got blue, you've got green, you've got brown, we're limited a little bit more in our colors because we're not typically wearing like the pinks, the apricots. We might wear a polo shirt in those colors once in a while, but that's not like the foundation of our, it's blue pants or tan pants most of the time, maybe black or brown, gray. But again, I'm personally not a gray guy, but I do have gray clothing, because gray goes with blue, gray can go with green, gray can go, and tan even more so, I would say. I think because you can have warm tans and cool tans, whereas gray is just gray. So I don't know. I feel like I can do a little bit more with tan sometimes, or most of the time. So yeah, you're supposed to take your lifestyle assessment percentage or something, your aspiration versus reality. This time, she was saying basically the same stuff as the other guy, but like I said, but I think it would be more helpful if we made a pie chart, maybe, or maybe she did make a pie chart, or she meant to make a pie chart. I don't remember. But it was kind of the opposite of dress for, the job you want, whereas as men, we're kind of told dress for success. So if you're dressing down because you don't need to dress up, you're kind of limiting yourself in that way, I felt. And this, like I said, both of these women were not very super fashionable, super chasing the trends. They had kind of grown out of that or whatever. And so they were, like I said, espousing more of a minimalist thing, whereas I'm like, yeah, to a degree, but there's a reason, like I've argued with, people many times over the last year and a half or so, why it's, better to be more dressed up when you can, if you can. Again, if your job is a janitor, then no, don't wear a 3-piece suit. Duh. But I know this, like one guy, I mentioned this, I think, in a previous video too. I was trying to sell him one of my old leather jackets or whatever. And he would say, oh, no, I couldn't add that to my wardrobe. I'm a minimalist. Like, oh, okay, one jacket isn't going to destroy your whole wardrobe, And, what's he wearing? Like, he was wearing nothing impressive, like a pair of Converse Chuck shoes and I think a denim jacket or whatever. It's like, well, yeah, I dressed like that in 8th grade too, but you're an adult now. You're allowed to have a leather jacket. It's okay. It's not going to, defeat you personally, and it's going to go with more things maybe, and I don't know that I was necessarily trying to sell him one of mine just because I wanted, the money is, either, and in fact, it started off as a discussion about, I think I mentioned this in one of the indie videos, a discussion of leather, or actually it might have been the Top Gun jacket, I won't put links to all that in the, but I had been finding them relatively inexpensively on eBay, and he was saying, "Oh, you can never find a good leather jacket." And I'm like, "You're smaller than I am. You could find plenty for the same price as those jeans, you know." So let's see what do you have here. When two activities I struggle to dress for or have too many clothes for. Okay, so again, if you know you have too many clothes because you've been stylish for a while, you need less hobbies or something. I'm not really sure how that would come about. I know I have too many clothes for hiking and camping and that kind of thing because I don't get to do it as often as I used to. But I'm not getting rid of those clothes. The declutter in the header here was, you know, it's not the point of this video. Like I said, I'm not decluttering useful items, even if I don't use them that much, right? And then she says, don't buy the same thing over and over. This is redundant and bad. Again, I disagree. I buy several of the same item if I think it's the item that I know I'm going to want going forward. If it's from a company that I trust, the quality that I want, etc. Again, like I said, with men's clothing, we are kind of more in a uniform pattern. So, you know, it's having 3 of the same thing is a good thing. Maybe not 10, but, you know, a few, so that if one gets messed up, we just grab the other one, you know, that kind of thing. And then she said something about balance. She was talking about silhouettes and the way it looks. And again, we're talking women's clothing, which is different than men's clothing. Men's clothing, the silhouette is kind of the style of suit you choose if you choose to wear suits. Otherwise, there is no real silhouette. It's a shirt and pants or whatever. And then when we get into suits and sport jackets and things like that, we can talk about lapels. We can talk about this. We can talk about the length, you know, the disappointing new jackets that don't cover your crotch or your rear, you know, that kind of thing. But the overall silhouette is the, you know, the male shape. It's not curvy or, you know, inverted or whatever typically. Like women's clothing can be used to kind of manipulate that. Men's clothing less so over the ages. Then they talked about color palette. This I thought was kind of what I do already. Again, it's unconscious to a point. So the first point was to pick 2 main colors and then add neutrals and maybe others for a little pop or whatever, which we already discussed. Like I said way back in the other video, for a man, like I said, we're typically talking blue or brown or tan or gray. We're somewhere in that range. So for me, it's kind of 4 colors, not 2, but I vary them from season to season. And white, of course, being the neutral. But in this case, I treat white like a color, much like some women and men, including her, I would say treat black. Because I would say blue and black might be more of their main colors. Whereas for me, black is very minimal. And red is almost non-existent, right? You know, I have some red shirts that I wear in summer or whatever, and then in autumn, red, rust, brown, things like that. But then it's more ties. I'm not wearing red shirts with my suit or, you know, even a leather jacket very much. And then the neutrals, again, I keep bringing up tan over and over because tan is a neutral, but tan is also a main color, again, because khaki is khaki. Khaki chinos are called khakis. They're just called khakis. Like khaki is its own thing, you know. And then next was define your personal style character. Again, choose 3 to 4 style words: classic, edgy. Again, I'm groping for adjectives because I don't want to say it's pretentious. I just think, like I said, it's applied differently in menswear than women's wear. So I think you see what I'm going with that, why I'm not going overboard with the adjectives here because I mean, what adjective would you use for this? I mean, yeah, plaid, but that's basic description, not, you know, but maybe nautical. I mean, it's literally just red, green, blue, and white, you know. It has flat pockets instead of a single chest pocket. So outdoorsy, mountain, again, extra casual. There's no, I mean, it's just a regular shirt. You know, I don't know what exactly adjectives I would need for this, but so taking your dominant colors, in this case, what, blue and white, because again, the red is not a dominant color in my wardrobe. The green is, but you can barely see it. 10, take your lifestyle reality, which again, we're not going into that right now. That's a whole long conversation. And then understand your bad shopping habits and such as retail therapy and boredom. Yes. Again, like I said a few minutes ago, sometimes you want to get 2 or 3 of the thing, but make sure it's a thing you need. Don't just get them because they're on sale, right? Although I do that with certain things anyway, because, you know, if I can return them, then if I don't like it, I'll send it back. And if I think I want to do a comparison, again, I'm kind of putting myself in this position because I want to make YouTube videos, not necessarily because I want to try out 80 million products that I don't need. But I do get similar things from different brands to see which brand I like better, and I narrow it down. So I know that I'm going to want the Wrangler jeans of whatever model number that was more than I'm going to want Levi's 505s, just because they're less expensive, they have a nicer look, and they both have a zipper. So if I'm buying jeans with a zipper, I'm probably going to buy the lesser expensive ones that fit better. But would I prefer a pair of 501s to the Wranglers? Maybe, you know, because the button fly. So I might pay extra to get the button fly. That's, you know, process of elimination. You can't exist without that unless you literally just buy the cheapest one at the store every time, or buy this one every time because it's the name brand, you know. Let's see. So then we had wardrobe wish list and style slip up diary. So this was like homework that they wanted you to do. Again, I don't really make a wardrobe wish list as per se, but I do make little, or intend to make little lookbooks and things to, again, elevate, refine, revise. Again, we talked about this way back in my earlier videos that hardly anybody's watched. So maybe this will inspire somebody to go back and watch some of my earlier videos and all that. And then we get, again, declutter and identify. They want to keep coming back to the declutter thing to, you know, make sure that as you add these new things, you're not just collecting heaps and heaps and heaps of old things. So there you go. So that's what's worn out versus why didn't you wear it? And that's an interesting, well, okay, for many of us, why didn't we wear it is because we outgrew it. We got physically bigger or taller or whatever. Sometimes it was for a good reason, like it was itchy, or you know, it was the right size, but it didn't feel good here or whatever, you know. But again, some of that comes down to brand loyalty, and some of that comes down to, even like I've said in other videos, like my Woolrich shirts video, that those brands that used to be the ones we could trust, we can no longer trust. So it's not a fail safe. You can't always go back and buy the exact same thing from that company if you didn't stock up before to get one that fits correctly now. And then, of course, if it's not your lifestyle anymore, because of size or because of you've changed jobs, changed hobbies, changed whatever, move to another location where you don't need jackets anymore, you're in Florida now, or vice versa. Again, I think that's the kind of thing, though. If you move from a warm climate to a cool one, you're not going to get rid of your other stuff. You're just going to buy stuff to put on top of it. Whereas if you move to a warm climate and you brought your parka, you might feel a little silly unless you go skiing a lot. So here's where it got into okay, so this video's getting pretty long. I might break this up into another video, but for the most part, I think we'll have I think these last 2 points I'll do, and then we'll call it a day because we're almost at 30 minutes. But basically it was, have you worn this in over a year? And if you didn't dump it, she had made a flow chart for this. And yeah, I'm not going to go into all that now. But basically, instead of getting rid of everything, putting it into a maybe pile and storing it for maybe 3 months or 4 months. Again, if you live in a warm climate and they're winter clothes, you're going to store them for longer before you get back to them, blah, blah, blah. You know, every situation can be slightly different. But basically the idea of, you know, if you haven't worn it in a year, the minimalist would say, well, just get rid of it, you know, and sometimes you can sell it and sometimes you can't. So if it's in bad condition, obviously get rid of it. If it's in good condition, maybe keep it if it still suits you, if it still fits, yada, yada, yada. But a lot of times, yeah, you put it in the storage for 3 months. And the one gal was saying, I think it was a different gal, that she likes that because then she feels like she has a brand new piece of clothing that she hasn't worn. And I do that with certain things. But on the other hand, that can backfire too because, you know, they can get that musty smell or whatever. So you don't want to, you know, just hang on to things that you never wear for 2 or 3 years. It gets kind of ridiculous. But a year, I don't always wear everything that I own in a year. Some years are warm. Like this year in California, we had rain almost every weekend for 4 months. That doesn't happen very often. So I needed flannel shirts way more than I did, you know, 2 years ago. Last year we needed them. I think last year we had kind of a colder but a drier winter, and it lasted for a while. Now the rain has stopped and the cold has stopped and it's already started to get warm. So I don't need flannel shirts now, but I did 2 weeks ago and that was April. So, but did I wear anywhere near all the flannel shirts I own? Of course not. I live in California. I own way too many flannel shirts, but I might move somewhere someday, right? So whatever. But I also don't like only wearing t-shirts all the time. Like a lot of people in California, I own very few t-shirts compared to my button shirts. So because I prefer to wear shirts that have buttons most of the time. So like I said, I'll do a follow-up to this, give people a chance to watch this, and then I'll come back to this in more depth. But I think I should cut it short for now. So if there's any questions, put them in the comments. Oh my God.